there is only tragedy in the Israeli-Palestine conflict. There's no good that can come of it. No, that's not what they said. There's only tragedy. That is what they said. And I wish I had memorized it because it was a really eloquent description of it's not good guys, bad guys. It's just tragedy every which way you look. And nature is red in tooth and claw, and there is tragedy to that. But I don't know that there is any way to escape it. And relinquishing your power is not the way to do it. As somebody who thinks in movies, I will remind everybody of Superman 2. When Superman gives up his powers because he wants to just be a normal person and be in love with Lois Lane and do the things that a normal person would do, only to then find out that he gets knocked around by the bully, and to help people has to get his powers back. It's interesting. I have not thought about that metaphor, but yeah, that I think is the very hard lesson we're learning, that it feels really good to focus on how much I love my wife, to focus on how much I care about my team here at Impact Theory, to focus on the people that I'm trying to help with the show. But there's a reason why I talk constantly about the imagery that I use to keep myself motivated is me in a loincloth covered in the blood of my enemies. And I have to channel that willingness to be hard, to be tough, in order to stay focused, to not give up, to not fall into a weak mindset. Here's another quote that I wish I had memorized, but I'll get you close with a paraphrase. This is George Washington. George Washington said, when a group of people loses their hard fighting disposition, they can no longer claim themselves to be among the best. Just as cowardice is a mortal sin in the individual, it is a mortal sin at the population level. And I was like, whoa, like, especially when you understand his role and what he did in order to help America get the American experiment off the ground, which is hopefully something we'll get to before the end of this talk, like what the American experiment is, why it matters, why it's not owned by America.
One of the aspects that we're circling around here is sacrifice. Think about what George Washington did. He led hundreds of thousands of men, many of whom were maimed and killed, into battle over what? An idea. The idea that you people in this country should be free of external tyranny. And he sacrificed men's lives to achieve it. Now, we would agree that killing people is bad, maiming people is bad. We don't want any civilian or anyone killed, do we? Because we're good, moral, virtuous people. But that is not how the world works. If you want to achieve goals, inevitably that will happen, right? If you want to defend your country, you have to sacrifice. Some men, usually men, almost always men, have to sacrifice themselves. And someone who's in charge of that will be in charge of, do we send these people here? Do we send them there? Some of them are going to die. We're in moral paralysis in the West at a level of society. We still have generals. We still have, presidents who will press the button and send men into battle and whatever. But at a level of society, we are incapable of understanding that reality. We're incapable of understanding the fact that, look, the Israel-Palestine situation is a perfect example of this. If you believe that Hamas is a terrorist organization, you understand that this was Israel's 9/11, and Israel has to destroy Hamas. If Israel has to destroy Hamas, Hamas using civilians as a shield means that civilians are going to die. I don't feel comfortable being the guy, yeah, press that button, go on. I'm not happy saying that. I'm not saying that. But the people making that decision, if they want to destroy Hamas, have to take innocent life. That's the moral quandary that the entire world is in. And the reason that Israel is particularly in that position, it is being forced to play by Western rules against people who play by a completely different set of rules, who don't operate on those values whatsoever.
It's interesting calling them Western rules. I like to think, I haven't thought about this, so I can tell that what I'm about to say is ill-informed. but I'll walk through the way that I was thinking about it, and then I'll sort of self-correct. What I was going to say is I like to believe that as a society finds itself prosperous, not quite true. This is how I know this is ill-informed. Okay, there are two ways to approach it. You've got the individualistic way, you've got the collectivist way. You can achieve extraordinary things through both, as China's shown over the last, 30 years has been absolutely breathtaking to see that level. I just have a feeling that that one deranges a little more quickly than does the individual. So if you made me place a bet on which one is going to yield the best results over time, I would say that betting on the individual, meaning individual freedoms, property rights, all the things that we'll call Western values. I think that that makes sense. I think once you do that and you make the individual, you think of them as having a divine spark within them, and that each individual is precious and not this disposable thing, that has a self-correcting mechanism in it that leads to what we're seeing now. Now, we have looped back to beliefs that end up creating the pathology, and we'll keep going through some of them because I think it's pretty fascinating. But that to me, I think makes a lot of sense. So I want to believe that any society that bets on in elevating the individual as the right unit of account as you begin to analyze what to do, what not to do, that it requires you to look at them as sacred individuals and thusly protect them, and thusly any society that goes down that path is going to find themselves not wanting to use human shields or blow up human shields. So anyway, I think I navigated that reasonably well. I stopped myself from the most absurd trip-ups, which is that a collectivist society can work. I just have a feeling that because it only requires one person to become pathologized, that has a tendency to end in tyranny and bad news much faster. But it's certainly not impossible for either system to end up there. Okay. Anything more on that belief?
No.
Okay. So I have more. So problematic beliefs that cause collapse that I want people to pay attention to, because if you adjust these in your own life, not only do I hope that means the collective won't derange, that it means if we really are living through effectively the modern version of the Roman collapse, that this is going to help you see opportunities if you can avoid these problematic beliefs. Okay, so prosperity is a fundamental law of human nature. I feel like people believe that that's true. What do you think?
Dumb people believe that that's true.
Yeah.
Or maybe I take that back. Lucky people in the Western world believe that that's true because they've never experienced anything else. But that isn't the world. The world is very, very different to that. And this is one of the things I've made it my business to remind everybody. You know, we talk endlessly about all sorts of forms of privilege, this privilege, that privilege. You know, the real privilege that we all enjoy is Western privilege, first world privilege. And we have been very comfortable for a very long time in that privilege. And we have forgotten that life for the overwhelming majority of people throughout human history has been an immense struggle for survival. Prosperity is not a given. It is a product of the things that we have been very lucky to enjoy in the West. And the values that we have are what has allowed us to build it, which is why they're important to preserve. So prosperity is not a human right. It doesn't fall out of the sky. It's not on your birth certificate. Prosperity is a product of action. It's a product of action in your personal life. It's a product of action at the level of society. For you to enjoy the prosperity that you enjoy, you have to work your butt off, as you have done, and be smart, and be creative, and be driven, and be talented, and have great ideas that you test against reality, and fail, and recover, and adjust. That's how you build prosperity in your own life, and countries are no different.
I heard a really cool quote. I'll paraphrase. I mentioned it earlier. In the capitalist system, people recognize that prosperity is the miracle. In a socialist system, people get confused and think that redistribution is the miracle. So if it's true that it's the rules and rules of thumb that really are going to equate to your level of success, whether that's emotional success, financial success, societal success, what are high-level rule sets? The two that came to mind the fastest, just at the highest level, were capitalism and socialism. So I was like, all right, without looking it up, what would I define these two systems as? So for capitalism, I said individuals try to contribute to the group, and prosperity is their reward if successful. For socialism, I said the group takes from the individual to divide prosperity evenly. And what do you think about those definitions, first of all?
Pretty good. I mean, they're obviously by definition extraordinarily simplified.
Yes.
But broadly speaking, yes.
Okay, so when you look at those rule sets, one of them, I think, acknowledges that prosperity is going to be hard to come by. That's why I said, because originally I was like, individuals contribute to the group and prosperity is their reward. And I was like, hold on, because you're going to try to contribute. You may not be able to. Society may say, I don't like your contribution. The one that kills me, society may say, you're not smart enough to contribute meaningfully. That one is hard, but real. And there are going to be people that just do not have the intellectual horsepower to contribute meaningfully to society. And hence, I like a social safety net of some kind, like looking out for people, wanting to help people. All of that's amazing. Anyway, socialism takes that prosperity for granted and does not realize that you can break the very thing that creates the prosperity, which is giving people the individual freedom to try to contribute to the group. And if they're able to do that successfully, that prosperity is their reward. They are able to create a differential between themselves and other people. They're actually able to do that. Now, of course, anybody that's familiar with the Gini coefficient knows that if that gap between the haves and the have-nots becomes too much, you are basically guaranteed violence. Because people can actually be poor and it's not a problem if everyone around them is poor. Where it becomes a problem is if your neighbor is super wealthy and you're even normal, like you have a refrigerator, you have air conditioning, you have a PlayStation, like you can have it all. But if your neighbor is Elon Musk, now there's a real problem. And he has rocket ships and makes his own cars, all that stuff. So they can be a problem. But if you fail to recognize that that prosperity is, by default, everyone is broke all through human history, and everyone but the smallest number of like royal people just suffered endlessly, and we're victims of just climate. Just you froze to death, you overheated, or you starved to death, probably even way more common.
If you like that clip, check out another powerful clip right here, and I'll see you there.